Hello and welcome to another Nordic Takedown podcast video. A few days ago we released the deck tech video on this Anakin Skywalker blue list that we have been working on, and me and Jona and two other friends, Tobias Lind and Johan Rosenströmer. We are going to watch a video here, or we are not going to watch. I'm going to make a video here about the run basically of the deck. We talked about it very briefly in the deck tech video that it came up second, and I'm going to basically talk through a little bit about the matchups that I had, especially those who are interested, the interested matchups, and then we're gonna end with some final thoughts, talk a little bit small about the deck and stuff, maybe a little bit about sideboarding and stuff like that in the end. So welcome to the Cantina Brawl, number 2 Humble Run, and don't forget to like and subscribe. So the Swiss opponents, let's start there. This is the decks. I faced Sabine ECL, Anakin Blue, Django Red, Krennic ECL, Hanwan Yellow, and Boss Green. So even though there was the most popular deck in the meta was actually Bosk Blue, I think. It was most Bosk Blues there. And then it was Anakin Blue, but there were different versions. I did, even though that was the most popular deck, I dodged them because they kind of early started to facing each other and lost game once, and I did go 6-0. So I dodged them, even though I got a Bosk. But my first game was actually on stream versus Sabine ECL. Not gonna talk too much about that because game 1 he started with no 2-drop, and I don't think he dropped anything on turn 4. So obviously you win that game. Game 2, he had a better start but forgot about Anakin's ability, so he made a ping with Sabine, which made me able to trade up with C3PO and kill his Rebel Marine. And from that was no coming back. Then I had the Anakin Blue Mirror. Our deck is just, this version is just so much better. You just take on the control role, and then when he overcommits on a play, you punish it, and then there is no coming back. So that was also a 2-0. Then I had maybe my tightest series in the entire game. Against this Django Fett, so which I see has some weird language here, and maybe it's Polish in this picture. Kind of interesting that I missed that. But I played against a guy called Jacob Hultman, Jacob in the Discord. We were battling it hard. Like game 1 took quite long, and I think we both thought we were gonna win it. But in the end, he won with I think it was a double daring raid play that put him through. It was like very few damages on the base. Game 2 was also really tight. It took some time for me to like close it out, but like it wasn't as tight. But it was still like one misplay away. Jacob was playing really well around the pings. He had I played Luke in 2 or 3 of the games, and Luke never got to hit base, basically. He just got pinged every round until he died, which made it really hard. Game 3 was so close. It was basically, I think I had 4 damage, 5 damage always at least left on the base, which meant that he couldn't go for the double daring raid kill again, and we just kept playing around those damages until I finally won that game. I think with 1 damage, with 29 damage on my base and killing his, which was insanely tight. So it was a game that went close to time. We had multiple people sitting around watching that game 3, and luckily nobody was pointing out any blunders. Just said that was a great game of Star Wars Unlimited, and probably one of the most intense and skill well played, I would say, games that I played in a tournament, if you take over like the course of 3 games. Sadly, Jacob only went 3-3, like lost the last game to my brother, which meant that he was not going to make the top cut. But a really great performance he showed in that game. He could just easily have won that. Then I faced up against Krennic ECL, which was piloted by Victor. Shout out Victor. He's a regular here on the Nordic Takedown. Made a video here not long ago before the Boba ban and stuff on the channel, and he's a frequent appearance on the show, on the podcast. He's been a great asset. He had worked with the famous Krennic green player Alexander Lutz in Sweden to make a Krennic list that worked, because he didn't feel like Sabine was going to be good enough into all the Django we expected. It turned out to only be 2 in the whole tournament. But he had done well. He went 3-0 here until we faced. The problem for him, I think, is that I played this matchup maybe more. And I know that Anakin basically can't lose to Krennic unless you get a pretty poor start where he get Pershing, draws a lot of cards, and ramps. He did get to ramp, but it doesn't matter when I hit the discard package and throw like his plays out the window. He can't like pressure me enough to make it uncomfortable. So I am the control player in this game, and after sideboard, like when I have 3 Crate Dragons and 3 Felder Dragons, he just can't win. So that became a 2-0. Fairly confident, but nothing really about the player. It was more about the matchup. Han Yellow 2-0 as well against Philip, who made the semis. And Krennic, Victor, of course, made the quarters as well. So the semis, the semi player Philip here on Han Yellow. Han Yellow was also quite a popular deck. A few people brought it, 3 or 4, I think, more than I thought. He said after that he was not as used to this matchup as I was. Of course, I knew it was all about not getting DJ'd. If I don't get DJ'd, and it can't, like, if he DJs me and steals my resource forever, that's when I am in big trouble in this matchup. If that doesn't happen, I have very good chances of winning. So I just played around that, like tried to sometimes bait a DJ when I knew I could kill him and take it back and stuff like that. Game 1 was over not super fast, but like in a normal pace. And game 2 actually dragged out quite long, so we had like 15 minutes left to play a game 3 if he would have won game 2, but it turned out to be my day there as well. And here we come to Boss Green, which was actually a matchup that I thought was pretty good for me coming into the day. I don't think so anymore. The Boss Green can ramp like crazy. He has a very high end. The only thing he has lacking for him is like good removal, except the barrage. And like he had bad card draw because he didn't run Deathmark. So the games were basically going like this. He ramps, I discard, and I hope that he didn't draw like too many big targets for me to handle to claw my ass back. So he won game 1. I squeezed game 2. In game 3, in this was like, we had a very interested state on the board where he had a Devastator who needed to hit twice, and I had a Crate Dragon that needed to hit twice. But he had to respect that I could have felled the dragons, so he felt like he couldn't just attack and claim. So he chose to maul my damaged crate to kill it, knowing that he will take some base damage, of course. But then he could do the hit and hit. The problem for him was that I slammed another Crate Dragon right after that, which meant I only had 1 hit to kill him, and he couldn't do the double Devastator hit anymore. So it was like a mind game of chicken, because it was the right play. If I had felled the dragon, like, he would have lost if he had just gone hit claim. Now I didn't. And after sideboard, I actually have 3 fell in the deck, so it was, and I don't think he had seen any fells in that game, so it was a reasonable thinking. And I did not know the rest of his hand as well, but that was close. So we got into this tight game 2-1. He made the Swiss anyway. He was also he wasn't undefeated, but he was undefeated before that because he drew his first game, so he went 4-1-1. So that was my 6-0 run. Going into the top cut, this is what I faced. All Bosque Blues actually missed out. I know there was some mirrors. There was some people lost in against my teammate that also played Anakin Blue. He took down 2 Bosque Blues in his run. I think they ended 4-2 and 3-3 or something like that. So I was like a little bit surprised when my first opponent was Emil with the Ray Red, the Tarkin Town. I think it's a solid deck, and he's a good player, and he's played it a lot. But I thought maybe that Ray Tarkin Town is a little bit too weak to like, especially to deal with all the aggro that was there, like with the Sabines. There was 4 or 5 Sabines, 4 or 5 Han yellows, and the only 2, of course, Yango reds, but and also there was like 2 Cad reds. So very impressive that he got to the top 8, because it's not, in my opinion, like the top tier deck. But in this matchup, this one is also on stream, which you can see why Anakin is a better leader than Rey, and why, like, I think like the bravado version of Anakin, that version might be worse than the Ray Tarkin Town deck. But if you play the Ray Tarkin Town the way that Emil plays it and the way I play Anakin Blue, I think there is not many arguments for sticking on Ray. Of course, my list was not public, and like, if you haven't figured that out, like, of course you cannot run it. But I would be surprised if not most Ray Tarkenton players will switch to Anakin Blue after seeing this. So it was, though, however, very close in game 2. I did a massive mistake in the sideboarding process that almost cost me the game, because game 1 was very focused on ground. So I sideboarded out my Conquerdons. Sorry for the yawn. Which was a really big blunder, because he has the A-wings and he can buff them with Ray. So he had big A-wings on the side that I had no answers to, because I didn't draw the takedowns or the open fires in time. So we actually came to a state where I was damaged 24, and he had 5 damage on both ships, so he could only push me to 29. But the problem was that he had only 9 HP on base, which meant that if he hit me to 29, I would have 9 damage with Anakin and just kill him. And he could not get out of that lock, basically. He tried to start with healing with Ray, but then I had an Obi-Wan that hit for 4, and then I already had lethal with 8, so he could only get to 29. And he had an unfortunate quill, I would say, that discarded his Rival's Fall. If he had had the Rival's Fall, I think maybe he would have won game 2. So that was a bit unlucky. And who knows what would have happened in game 3. Back to the Boss Green matchup again. This was even tighter than the first one. I think this matchup is very good for Bosk. I think especially if you make some changes, me and Jonathan, the player, both these games was played off stream, because I had been on stream so many times. So we I think I had 4 or 5 of my games on stream this day in total. But his matchups were insane. Like, he ramped, I discarded. It was all about the crates. I had better answers for crates, but like, he had crates and devastators. And I think for in game 2 was really tight. There was an unfortunate thing where he forgot to put damage from the Crate Dragon after I killed it with Luke. It was also a little bit of a fortunate interruption by people around, which meant that maybe if he had gotten a longer time to think about it, like starting he would have remembered it. And I think I could not have won without that. So I would have lost 2-0 otherwise, I think. Game 3 was less close. I think I got the right things. But I could definitely have lost that 2-0. And I could have lost 2-1 in the Swiss against the Boss Green. So Boss Green has really something. And that is a deck that I'm going to look into after this. Especially like adding, like trying to fix the card draw issue that Jonathan had here. And we've already been talking about it afterwards. But that deck was really, really interesting. The one that interested me the most, I would say, after coming out after this. Then I faced Kevin, the Sabine ECL, not the one I faced in round 1. This was one of the others. He managed to go to 4-2, and I have to talk a little bit about his run before, because he did a very impressive Top Cut run where he beat Django Red, which he's not favored in. The Django Red that went 5-1 in Swiss. Then he beat Philip, who played Han Yellow, that beat him 2-0 in Swiss. And then he came up against me here, going down 1-0. The game 1 was pretty like clean for me, getting a 3PO out, having access to like Yoda's open fires, village protectors, and stuff like that. So that one was pretty easy. Then game 2 happened. He drew very, very well, because I didn't draw bad, but I had no chance. He just made so much damage, so the Anakin flip was irrelevant, basically. Game 3, very sad. My first hand was a C3PO and just 4 or 5 6 drops. So I felt like I couldn't bank on 3PO hitting a 3 drop. And him not like, and he only having a ground unit, which was kind of right because he had space. But the mulligan left me with 0 2 drops and like 2 little things to come back, basically. Game 2 was actually even closer in a way, because if I had drawn Bravado, I think that I could have done like a double swing and played around that, and I made myself a sneak win against him and go win 2-0. I didn't draw it. I didn't draw it in that game. Didn't see it in game 3 either. Even though I healed 10 damage with top targets, it was not close, I would say, at all. He even had the CL ready, and still won. Didn't get my answers. And Kevin, who top 4'd in the PQ, we faced as well in the PQ in Copenhagen, in the Swiss that time, and I won that time. So he got his revenge here in the final. Very good Sabine player, obviously. Won 2 matchups he shouldn't, and won the matchup he should in the Top Cut. Very, very impressive, and congratulations to him. So this was the deck once again. If anyone wants another look at it, the main board, the sideboard. Talking about, I will slightly mention some of the sideboard tips, because some people have actually asked about it. So what I've done in the matchups, especially against aggro, I took in top targets and Conquer Dawn, and primarily and Bravado, those 4 cards, removing Crate Dragons and Pillage. Unless I felt like, sometimes, like in the first game against Django Red, I felt like you can pillage Django Red sometimes, so I removed a Poe, I think, instead. Or maybe it was Tech. I'm not quite sure what I removed there. Found out that that version that they have made, I was not in a position to pillage the Django Red at all, so moved that one out to add instead. For the other things. Then against control, in general, you add the Pillage, Fell the Dragon, the Double Tech, and Crate Dragon. And you remove, let's see here, now I don't get it all in my head. You could usually remove the Restore Arc, because the 2-drop is not that important. You can also in my opinion. Then of course you remove the Conquer Dawn, so that's 5 cards, and that's 2, 3, 4, 5 cards in. I think you can remove a Canaan for a Smoke and Cinders, especially against Boss Blue, because Smoke and Cinders is basically only there for Boss Blue to make you play like a maniac, use your cards, and when he Deathmark claims and stuff and sits there with his 8-10 cards in the end, you just play Smoke and Cinders, and then you play a Pillage afterwards, and then you start using your smuggle things with Tech and Cassians and stuff like that. There is obviously, in the mid-range deck, this one is very well positioned. You want to get Pillage in, basically, and create Dragon, so you have your high, you want Fel Dragon in as well. Some of the matchups you want Tech. I thought I wanted Tech against Boss Green. Tech was pretty irrelevant against Boss Green, because it was just, you need to answer right away, and you can't answer with a Tech. It's too slow. So that's my thoughts here on the sideboard. And some final thoughts and possible changes. Top target was awful, very underwhelming. Even though I healed 10 in my last game, I was never close on winning. I think playing it and having to play a card afterwards is too slow. They get to use their units. It's one thing if you have a Village Protector protecting and he can't use the unit, then it works. But otherwise, it's just not good enough. I think having another open fire, another takedown would have been more beneficial. I think so. That is an initial change I would do right away. Do I regret taking Anakin to the event and not Sabine? No. I think Anakin Blue is very well positioned in an open meta where a lot of decks are played. I think it is a very exhausting deck to play because it is more on the control side. Almost in every matchup you are the control player. And even in the control matchups you have to play long. It's a very intense deck to play, very fun deck to play. So if you're just looking for a fun deck, start with this. It's very hard though. You need to find the lines and and everything like that. But super fun deck, super top deck. We'll see. I'm thinking about doing a meta tier list thing coming up forward. And see for the PQs or showdowns whenever that starts. So stay tuned for that if it happens. But yeah, I think that is going to be it. And thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, join us on Discord, and yeah, have a nice day. May the force be with you.